How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. The 2020 Chicago Bears are off to their best start in franchise history since 2012, currently sitting at 5-1 and in the driver's seat in the NFC North. On the other hand, are they still legitimate contenders? Today, in episode number 90 of Uncut, we're going to decipher what these 2020 Bears are and set realistic expectations for them later on this season. I would like to say we are back with Uncut, back primarily on YouTube for this episode. So if you are new to the channel and want Bears content every day of the week, do us a favor, click that red button to subscribe. We are 19 subscribers away from 3,000 subs. Hopefully we can hit that this week, and we're putting out a ton of content. So if you are new to the channel, join the gang and hit that button to subscribe. Also, I'm going to set a like goal on this episode for 60 likes. I'm feeling pretty confident about the viewership of this episode. I am your host, Chris Malpe, and today to talk about these 2020 Bears, I am joined with my co-host, Jaylen McClinton. Jaylen, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going good. Just enjoying this week so far. We don't play till Monday night, but that's about it.
Yeah, the Bears will face off on Monday Night Football in Week 7 with the Los Angeles Rams, October 26th, I believe that is, but we're not here to talk about that today, even though it is a tough task. That's a topic for our podcast. We're here to talk about how legitimate or not these Bears are. Jaylen, each and every week we've seen people come out and discredit the Bears' success thus far. Obviously, they are 5-1. The Bears have been named the worst 5-1 team in NFL history by many people online, but have had the third highest strength of victory out of NFC teams through week 6 with a minimum of 3 wins. So, Jaylen, I want to pass it back to you now. Do you think through about the halfway point of the season almost that these Bears are legitimate contenders?
I'm gonna say yes, and that's not just me being optimistic because obviously I'm a Bears fan. But if I was a fan of any other team, I would look at this Bears team like, oh, okay, they have an amazing defense. I'm not gonna say this is the 2018 defense because we've shown, well, the 2018 defense were creating mad turnovers. We were getting a lot of pressure and stuff like that. But just in the Panthers game alone, we showed that this is still the old defense. We created 3 turnovers, one turnover that helped us. We created a turnover at the beginning of the game that helped set us up for a touchdown, and at the end of the game to help us win the game when the offense couldn't move the ball. So I definitely think this team is legit. As the season gets on or as the season progresses, and Nick Foles is still becoming more what's the word I'm looking for? Familiar with,
Familiar with this
yeah,
offense?
familiar with his receivers, familiar with the offense. I don't expect this offense to put up 30 points every single week because that's just not who we were. That's just not this team's identity. But if we can put up 25 points or something around that range, I feel like nothing can stop this team.
Yeah, I got to go ahead and agree with you. I mean, we do see the comparisons to the 2018 team when we look at the Chicago Bears now, but I don't think that's essentially a bad thing. We saw the 2018 defense carry them all the way to the playoffs, and I think a playoff berth is something that none of us would take for granted whatsoever. Jaylen, you mentioned it. We've seen what the Bears are able to do this season, and they haven't been incredible on the offensive side of the ball. That's not going to change anytime soon. You mentioned that them putting up 30 points isn't something that you're going to expect on a week-to-week basis. And I got to go ahead and agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I do like that the Bears have the third toughest strength of victory so far this season out of any team in the NFC. They're also 5-0 in the conference, but they've only put up about 21.3 points per game, but have allowed a lesser number. So I'm confident in the defense moving forward. I think the defense is a top 5, top 3, possibly even top 2 unit in this league, and I think they're going to be able to carry them far in this playoffs. Or far down the season and hopefully into the playoffs. Let me correct myself there. Heading further down the defensive pipeline, Jaylen, we've seen the Bears' defense carry the weight so far this season, similar to 2018, as I just mentioned. Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks are both top 10 in the league in pressures, and the secondary has been the best in the NFL so far in defending the defending the pass game. Do you trust this defense to be able to carry this team to the playoffs once again?
Yeah. No, I feel like no offense or our defense isn't afraid of any offense in the NFL. We luckily we don't play the Chiefs or a team like that in the regular season. So only time we will probably meet them is to a Super Bowl, hopefully. So most of the teams we play, our defense shouldn't be afraid of their offense. The Packers with Aaron Rodgers, they got dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense last Sunday, and we showed that we're a better defense than that. So I definitely feel like once again that this defense can definitely carry us into the playoffs. Hopefully Nick Foles can be streaky like he was in 2017 when he won the Super Bowl and just play extremely well in the playoffs when it matters. But right now, this defense is going to continue to do what it does, and that's carry us.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson and this entire defense has been unstoppable. I mean, so many accolades for players on this defense so far, and we're only entering week 7. Eddie Jackson leads all safeties with the most coverage snaps without allowing a touchdown in 2020. That's per Pro Football Focus. The Bears' defense has allowed only 9 touchdowns in 2020, which is the best rate in the league. They've allowed 19.3 points per game, as I mentioned earlier. That's 6th in the league. 5.2 yards allowed per play, 6th in the league. 31.8% opponent conversion on third down, 2nd in the league, and 36.4 opponents scoring in the red zone rate, 1st in the league. I think this Bears defense is going to continue to carry moving forward, and we've seen them pick up some slack recently. Robert Quinn's been continuing to get pressure. His average separation from the quarterback was 3.81 yards in week 6, which was the best league average for the 2nd week in a row. We've seen Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack do their thing. Bilal Nichols hasn't been great, but Akeem Hicks has stepped up. It's been good to have him back and healthy. So I do think this Bears defense can carry the load throughout the season. We've got a couple tough tasks moving forward, a couple dogfights, but you know what? I do trust that this defense will be able to hopefully carry this team to the playoffs. Heading on to our next question, Jaylen, the Bears have a tough stretch of games upcoming against the Los Angeles Rams, New Orleans Saints, and an AFC opponent in the Tennessee Titans. And it seems like we're finally going to be able to see what this team is really made of. You mentioned it earlier, Green Bay is coming off of a tough loss against the Buccaneers, but is still probably the strongest team within the NFC North. The Bears currently have an 86% chance of making the playoffs per NFL's next gen stats. So, Jaylen, I want to ask you, do you expect them to get it done and be able to make the playoffs?
Definitely. Especially these next 2 games are going to be huge in contributing for us to make the playoffs. Right now we're 5-0 in the NFC. The only loss was to obviously the Colts, which is an AFC team. So these next 2 games against the Rams and the Saints, for me, if we can win these two, that and we can go 7-0 in the NFC so far in the first 8 games. That would be huge for us. The Rams are probably in one of the best divisions in football in the NFC West, with teams that like the Seahawks, who are the best team in the NFC. They have the Cardinals, who are 4-2, the 49ers, who are 3-3 right now, but that's still better than a division leader in the Cowboys. So that division right there is very strong, and they could if we lose this game, that possibly could hurt us when it comes to the wild card rankings. Because in my personal opinion, I don't think the Rams are going to win the division. I think that's going to go to the Seahawks. So if we can get this tiebreaker over them and over the Saints as well, who's also in a pretty good division with the Buccaneers, who's leading the division right now. I definitely feel like we can make the playoffs. But these next 2 games for me are going to prove if we can do it.
Jaylen, you mentioned it. These tiebreakers within the NFC are going to be huge, and the Rams are going to be one that's important. Green Bay, obviously, we saw last weekend that they are a beatable team, but they're still a strong team and still definitely can beat the Bears down the road. So, coming into those wild card spots, now there's 3 with the expanded CBA. It's going to be very important that the Bears beat these teams. I mentioned it to you before we got on the call. Obviously, we'd want to win the NFC North and hopefully gain some sort of home field advantage. But if not, whoever is that top wildcard team is going to play whoever comes out of the NFC East, which is easily the worst division in football right now. So I think these next 3 games are going to be huge. As you mentioned, like Tennessee isn't a team that's going to matter to us much. Obviously, we might see them later on in the season. That would have to be in the Super Bowl, and I don't know how realistic that is whatsoever. But beating these playoff teams that have experience, are going to be real important. I would be happy if the Bears came out of these 3 games winning 2 and losing 1. I don't know how realistic it is.
Yeah, that's
But
exactly what I was talking about.
but
Like
yeah,
I said that earlier. So
yeah, I would definitely prefer the Bears beating both the NFC opponents and then losing to the Titans. That NFC record is so important more than ever, and the Bears have done what they've needed to do. I think we have a good matchup against the Rams. You take a look at their wins. They've only beaten the 4 NFC East teams that I mentioned earlier, come from the worst division in football. So I think the Bears hopefully will be able to get some of these next couple of weeks under their belt, and I do believe that they will be able to make the playoffs here in 2020. Jaylen, one more question before we close this one off. We all know how the 2018 season ended with a last second loss in the NFC wildcard round to the Eagles, then with Nick Foles. Assuming that the Bears do make it back into the playoffs this year with an expanded playoff field, I want to ask you, what do you expect them to be able to accomplish in the playoffs? A Super Bowl run, a playoff win, a first round exit? What do you expect them to get done if they do make the playoffs?
So, of course, every Bears fan would love a Super Bowl run, and just I will personally, if my in my opinion, if we make the Super Bowl, I want to win the Super Bowl. I don't want to make the Super Bowl just to lose it, because like at that point, you got my hopes up for no reason. So, I would love to make a Super Bowl and win it, but realistically, for this team with still some question marks on offense, I feel like this team could definitely win a game in the playoffs. In 2018, that team was a Super Bowl team. The offense was putting up points when we got opportunities to, because of the short field that our defense gave us, and the defense we had was a Super Bowl defense. That was probably the best defense I've ever seen since I've been a Bears fan. So this team, like I said before, this defense might not be the 2018 defense. It might be a little bit worse, but this defense is still amazing. I feel like this defense is a Super Bowl defense. So with Nick Foles at quarterback, he's a person who's won a Super Bowl. He was the quarterback that beat us to give us a first round exit when we were in the playoffs in 2018. He's a person when if he's streaky, he's a very streaky quarterback. When he's playing well, he's playing really well. So if he can get hot in the playoffs, I feel like this team could be a Super Bowl contender. But realistically, I feel like we could definitely get a win. In the playoffs, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't think you can bank on this offense to be able to win them games when it comes down to playoff time. But personally speaking, I got to go ahead and agree with you. I think a playoff win would be great. Obviously, you have your hopes set on that Super Bowl, that Lombardi trophy, but I don't know how realistic it is. It's interesting that you bring up the 2018 team, because if you take a look at it, and we'll probably break it down in another video, the comparisons from the 2018 to the 2020 defense are very similar. The 2018 defense was better in some categories, most notably turnovers, but the 2020 defense is better in a lot of important categories as well, like stopping the opponents in the red zone, stopping them on third down. So I think the defense is very comparable. If we can start getting some turnovers under our belt, that would be interesting. But I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you. I think if they do make it to the playoffs, I think we take it game by game, obviously. So getting that first win under our belt is important. Obviously, we're discussing this a little bit early. We don't know what could happen later this season, but it seems like the Bears are trending upwards in that right path, but it should be interesting what these next 3 weeks tell us about them. Thank you guys so much for tuning into episode number 90 of Uncut. We're going to start trying to make these more consistently in the future, so do us a favor. If you haven't already, drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hoping to hit 3,000 subscribers this week. If you want more content from us, you can head over to our website, beareddown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs basically every day, getting you guys ready for the Bears' next matchup, in this case, the Los Angeles Rams. So if you have some extra time, do us a favor, head over to our website. It would be greatly appreciated. If you would like to find us on social media, we're currently giving away an Anthony Miller mini helmet on Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on both platforms at Beared Down. We're going to try and start doing monthly giveaways, and also our social media is a great way to connect with us, so be sure to follow us on those platforms. And finally, you can find the links to Jaylen and me's and my social media down in the description. Man, it's been a while since I've recorded. I'm a little bit rusty, but Jaylen McClinton, feels good to be back on the Uncut grind. Obviously, it's what we were doing all offseason that got us a ton of success. Any last words?
Bear down, and please beat the Rams. I don't want to lose to them again.
Yeah, the Bears are 1-1 with the Rams throughout the last 2 seasons. Obviously, a win for the Bears at Soldier Field, a loss at the Coliseum. They're going to be facing off in a new atmosphere this weekend at SoFi Stadium. Should be a great game, and we're going to keep coming at you guys with coverage for that Week 7 matchup. So be sure to be on the lookout for that as well. It's been a pleasure to be your host once again. My name is Chris Malpe. Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.